Hey everybody, good morning. It's Crafting Journey, out for the morning walk, and it's Monday. You know what that means. Back to work. Do I look thrilled? Uh-oh, here comes a car. Going none too slow. Anyway, stay tuned. I got a good one for you today. Hi everybody, Crafting Journey here, that Journey chick over on Instagram. Check me out over there. It's another manic Monday. Yes. Oh gosh. Yeah, I just got out of the shower, walked the dogs, and going to work. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to this. I just dread every second of it. Absolutely every second of it. Yeah. Did I say I'm dreading every single second of it? Okay. Anyway. So, yes, I have the diamond painting back out because I'm still climbing the tree here. Climbing the trees. Yeah. It's a bunch of confetti, but we're getting it done slowly. Hopefully there's some color blocking in the next sections. This weekend I did work on some watercolor. Yeah, a whole bunch of watercolor. I played around. Here's a little landscape that I put together. Landscape. You can barely see it. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. It's okay. Just okay. Flowers. I love flowers. Oh my god, these are gorgeous, aren't they? And this one I did during the live yesterday. I love these flowers. Same thing, except I went with some different colors. Just, this is the easiest thing to do while I'm chit-chatting with you guys. And what else? That's it. Well, those are the ones I'm going to show you. A lot of what I did was playing around with that new color palette that I have, which is, by the way, it's Christy Rice's color palette, and it's amazing. It's hot in here. Why is it so hot in here? All right, I do need to turn the light pad on to see the confetti. Yes. Today is National PTSD. Now, let me see if I can get this right. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes. Yeah. So originally this was a condition attributed mostly to people returning from the war, combat veterans, but it's now associated with anybody that has experienced a trauma, maybe any kind of traumatic event. Yeah. I think I have PTSD from my boss. Yes. Anyway, they just keep, they have difficulty sleeping. They keep reliving the events. There's certain triggers, people that might remind them of the events, situations that might remind them of the events. And the only thing that we could do is encourage these people, if we know them, to get help. According to PTSD United, 20% of this country, United States, suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of a traumatic event. We need help. Like prices at the grocery store, that's pretty traumatic. And the gas pumps. Now, originally this day was established to pay tribute to Army Staff Sergeant Joe Bile, who served in the National Guard, and he came back from his second tour of duty in Iraq with really bad post-traumatic stress disorder, and he ended up taking his life. So please encourage people that you know that have this disorder, not just combat veterans, but anybody that might have experienced a traumatic event, to get help. Yes, there. That's my spiel for today. Let's talk about crafting and crime daily. Now today, let me just see if there's a thumbnail up for the trials. I know there's another one starting. I've talked about the man in the suitcase. That's supposed to start today, unless she took a plea. So I don't know. Let's see what's going on here for this morning. I know that there is another trial starting where the mother killed her daughter. Now, the daughter was not a small child, so I haven't decided whether I want to cover this or not, because when we're dealing with children, it's always a thing. But I think her daughter was maybe even an adult. So we'll see. I don't see anything. No thumbnails up yet. All right, but we'll see. But today I've got a really good story for you because, and I will be very frank with you. This is on Netflix. It's on a show called. If you want to go watch it for yourself, it is on a show called Web of Make Believe. And episode 1 is called Death by SWAT. Now, this is the crazy story. And the only reason I wanted to cover it for you is because this literally happened down the street from me in 2018. Now, I didn't live here then. Thank God. This was probably about a year before I moved in. At the time, I was living down in the next town over. But yeah, down the street. In fact, I've been by this house, and the house is abandoned. Naturally so, after you hear this story. So let me just give you a little background on this. So for probably over 20 years now, been this thing on amongst gamers called swatting, where they get into squabbles and someone will call the SWAT team, call 911 and pretend that there's some kind of an emergency. They're being held hostage, or they've just shot someone, or some kind of thing that would necessitate the SWAT team going out to a house. And for the most part, it was just, and they would do it on camera. They would actually, if someone was live, they would send the SWAT team to that person's house while they were live, and they're sitting there doing a live, and all of a sudden the SWAT team is in their room. So it would all be on camera. So this was kind of a funny ha-ha thing that they were doing to each other. Then it evolved into bomb threats, and where they were evacuating buildings and schools, and just anything that they could do for fun. Where am I with this? Oh, here we go. I'm almost done with this symbol here. It originally was designed to disrupt gaming competitions. So they could, if there was a gaming competition going on, they could clear the room by threatening a bomb threat or sending the SWAT team out. And I would the cost of sending the SWAT team out is about $10,000 each time the SWAT team has to go out, because they send dogs and helicopters and all this specialized equipment, and this team they have to call out. It's very expensive for these police agencies to cover these calls. There was this guy named Tyler Barris who started doing this, and he became pretty well known for doing this. He was on Twitter, and people knew who he was because he would brag about everything that he had done. So he actually, at one point, called in a bomb threat when the FCC was having a meeting on net neutrality, which would affect gamers. Now, I don't know a lot about that, but he calls in a bomb threat on them, and they clear the building. So he lives with his grandmother, Tyler Barris, and he tells his grandmother's watching the news one night, and they're covering this story about how this building was cleared during this FCC neutrality meeting. And he tells his grandmother, he says, I did that. And he says, watch what I'm going to do. So he calls in a bomb threat to the news agency that was covering the story. And next thing you know, grandma's watching the news agency be cleared out. They were they had to clear the entire building where the news crew, where the news was happening, the whole thing. So his grandmother is appalled, and he tells his grandmother, if you ever tell anybody, I'll kill you. So I guess she doesn't believe him, but so she is a police officer, a friend. So she goes and tells her police officer friend. So Tyler is arrested, and he gets a 2-year sentence. And of that 2 years, he serves 16 months. Now, he was using voice over IP services. No idea what that means, but that's how he was doing it. Not just calling from his own phone. And they figured out that he had made he was doing about approximately 7 bomb threats a week, and including in his career, 5 times clearing out LAX airport. So he gets out of jail from his sentence, and he doesn't have anywhere to go. The only place he's ever been is grandma's house, you know. So she had, meanwhile, had gotten out a restraining order out on him because, you know, he had threatened to kill her. So she had her house all locked up. It's the middle of the night. He goes and he waits in the backyard, grandma's backyard, until it's morning. And when she comes out to do the laundry the next morning, he just goes right into the house. So she calls the police. He's arrested. He's violated his probation. He goes back to jail. He's in jail from January through August of 2017. When he gets out, he moves into a homeless shelter. And what he would do is there was a library down the street from this homeless shelter, and he would go visit the library where he would continue his swatting career. He would actually charge people anywhere from $20 to $50 per SWAT. So it was pretty well known that, you know, you could hire this guy and he would SWAT your friend or whatever, or maybe your enemy, I don't know, for a small fee. He was using the public Wi-Fi at the library. That's crazy. He had 37 instances of bomb threats. 37. He had over 18,000 followers on Twitter. So he was pretty well known. Am I done with this symbol? Oh no, there's a bunch right here. Here we go. So fast forward to this event. There's 2 boys playing. Shane Gaskell, he's from Wichita, Kansas. Here comes the local flavor. He is playing Call of Duty with his friend Casey Viner. They're in a Call of Duty. It's a room where you can go in and you can make a wager, and the wager was $1.50, and I don't know what they would win, but it was just a small payback. Small amounts of cash for winning these games. Well, his character accidentally shoots Casey Viner's character, and they get into this huge argument. So Casey hires Tyler Barris to SWAT Shane's home. Now, Tyler is monitoring Shane's Twitter. Now, I don't know a lot about Twitter, but I don't know how you can see this, but apparently Shane was aware that he was being monitored by Tyler Barris, this famous swatter. So he texts him, he private messages Tyler Barris and says, "Go ahead, I dare you. Here's the address. Let me give you the address." And he gives him the address. And I'm watching this show, and when I see the address, I almost fell off my chair. Or my bed, because I watch these things in bed. But I'm like, holy crap, that's right down the street from me. Yeah, so what do you think the SWAT guy does? Tyler, he sends the SWAT team out. He calls the SWAT team and he says, "Hey, my mom and dad were in an argument, and I just shot my dad. He's not dead, but I'm really afraid. Can you guys get out here? And I have a handgun." Okay, so Wichita Police Department sends out the SWAT team. And this happens on December 28th, 2017. At this dress is the Finch family. They're settling down for, it's 3 days after Christmas. Andy Finch lived there with his sister and her 2 children, who were 15 and 17 at the time. Now, the 15-year-old boy was not at home. The 17-year-old girl, she was upstairs. And then there was a family friend there, too. So the family friend and mom and Andy are getting ready to sit down and enjoy a meal that Andy had cooked. And they had this pothole on the side of their house, and they heard someone drive over the pothole, which it's in an alleyway behind the house. And they thought, well, that it's not that unusual. But then when they heard it like two more times, and they're like, what is going on in the alleyway? So then they start hearing lights and all this stuff, you know. And so Andy goes to the door, opens the door, and they say, come out with your hands up. And literally 7 seconds after he opens the door, shots are fired. A shot is fired from an AR-15, and he falls to the floor. He's not dead yet, but he falls to the floor. He's in the doorway. So now they're telling everybody in the house, come out with your hands up. So now they're having to walk over a dead body to get out of the house. And they were treated like criminals. They were handcuffed, thrown into the back of this car. Meanwhile, Tyler Barris stayed on the phone with 911 for 16 minutes while this is all occurring, and telling them, yeah, I'm still in the house, and yeah, I'm upstairs. So they go upstairs, and there's the girl. She's got her headphones on. She didn't know what was going on. So they escort her downstairs, and she has to walk over her uncle's body to get outside. So people are just, you know, appalled at this. Not just at the fact that there were swatters, but the fact that the police department was so quick to shoot this guy. Now, if I failed to mention it, here's the kicker. This was the wrong address. You probably figured that out, right? Shane gave the swatter, Tyler Barris, the wrong address. I think it was an address that he used to live at. Didn't live there anymore. Now it was the Finch family. Oh my God. Totally have the wrong people. This local investigator, he gets involved, and he wants to know what is the name of this cop. And the Wichita police, they're apparently have a long-standing history of not revealing, you know, who the shooters are, who the police shooters are. So this reporter has a connection somewhere, and the connection leaks the name of the police officer. After this, a campaign starts to have this police officer investigated. They make up these T-shirts to say, you know, investigate officer, I think his last name was Rupp, R-U-P-P. And then they get the idea that they saw that movie about the billboards. They rent 4 billboards and plaster them up there to investigate officer so-and-so for this police shooting. So they finally do investigate, and the outcome was that there was insufficient evidence to conclude that this was anything but self-defense. You know, the officer claimed that Andy was lowering his hand to his waist at the time he was shot. Now, this is on video. I didn't catch that, but this is what the officer says he saw. So meanwhile, on the internet, Shane texts Tyler Barris and says, ha ha, you got the wrong address. And Tyler's saying, well, I'm not responsible. I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't discharge a weapon. I'm not a trained SWAT officer. He was just not going to take responsibility for this. So meanwhile, this famous YouTuber, his name is Keemstar, asked Tyler Barris if he would come on his YouTube channel for an interview. And he says, yeah, I'll come on your channel. And he's basically saying the same thing. You know, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't, you know, I just sent the SWAT officers to this address. I didn't, you know, I do this all the time. But I'm not the one that killed this person. It's the police officer that killed him. And the guy said, well, aren't you worried that the FBI might come after you? And he's like, no, I'm not worried about it. Let them try to find me. Meanwhile, the police officer that had investigated him when he went to jail the first time, was watching this interview, because this is what he does. He investigates swatters. And he's watching this interview, and he says, I recognize that voice. That's Tyler Barris. And so they pinpoint where he's at, in this library near the homeless shelter, and they send the SWAT team out and they arrest him. So fast forward, Tyler Barris was charged for the murder of Andy Finch. And at the time he was arrested, he had all of these federal charges. So what they did was he worked out a plea deal where they rolled all of these charges into one, and he's serving a 20-year sentence for everything in a federal prison. Now, Shane pled guilty to wire fraud and is waiting to be sentenced. His sentence could be up to 20 years. And Casey, the person that hired Tyler, served or is serving a 15-month sentence. And it's all federal charges. So I do want to talk about the Finch family. What happened to this Finch family? Well, the 17-year-old girl, Adelina, she had, and this is National PTSD Day, she had really bad PTSD. Bless her heart, she had nightmares. She kept reliving the events to the point where about a year after the event, she shot herself in the head and took her own life. Meanwhile, her boyfriend comes on the scene, sees that she's committed suicide. He takes his life. So there were 3 victims to this wrong address stunt by Tyler Barris. I thought it was also interesting that the mom, she goes in front of the city commission and she's trying to get them to, be aware of, to get these police shootings investigated. The police shootings in Wichita are 12% higher than the national average. Nationally, police shootings are 1 in 1,300 officers. In Wichita, it's 1 in 120 officers. What? Yeah, so she goes in front of the city commission, and the commissioner cuts her off and says, "Ma'am, you've used up your 5 minutes." And she's like, "I'm taking my time. You're going to hear what I have to say." And another commissioner stuck up for her and let her keep talking, but what? How rude. Oh my gosh, this whole thing was just crazy. And I was just stunned that this could happen in my neighborhood. Like, it could have been my house. So, of course, I told you I drove by that house the next day. It's this cute little old 2-story wood home. All these homes were built a long time ago. Mine was built in the 1950s. It's a brick home. This one was a wood home. It's probably older than the 1950s, I would say. Maybe the 30s even. It's a much older home than mine. But it's abandoned. So, yeah, I don't think anybody wants. It's pretty well known what occurred at that home. So what happened this day in history? In 1939, this day in history, 1939, they film the last scene in Gone with the Wind where Rhett Butler leaves Vivian Leigh, on the stairwell. She's coming down the stairwell, and she's like, "Rhett, where are you going?" I don't know if she said Rhett. What did she say? I don't know. Anyway, whatever she says, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "Oh, what will I do? What will I do without you?" And he's like, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Remember that? If you have not watched that movie, how come? Why? First of all, it's a really long movie. It was very heavily criticized for their portrayal of slavery. But they actually filmed this scene twice. Once where they used "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn," and then they filmed it again saying, "Frankly, my dear, I don't really care." Just in case the censors would not approve the "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Well, they did approve it, but they fined the director $5,000. So he was like, "Here's your $5,000. I'm using "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Yeah, so that's Gone with the Wind. Oh my God, I don't remember. I must have been a teenager when I watched that. I don't think I've watched it since, but that scene will stick out in your mind. "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." And he walks out the door. It's the greatest scene in the whole movie. It really is. And now, look at the curse words we say now in the movies. Oh my God, yeah. The F word, the F bomb gets dropped every other word. Yeah, anyway. All right, guys, that is the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, I hope, we got one of these trials is going to get underway today. I can start monitoring it while I'm working. Working, 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 working. Yeah. Because I got to do something with my brain to keep my brain occupied, or it goes totally negative. Yes, that's just the way it is right now. All right, love you guys. See you tomorrow.